This is section 37 of Caesar's De Bello Gallico, book 5, and the Roman soldiers are getting routed by the Gauls as they've been tricked coming out of the camp. And remember that we have our two leaders, Sabinus and Cotta. Cotta has already been wounded. Remember, he was the one that tried to convince everybody to stay put in the camp. Sabinus is the one who told everybody to leave, and Caesar always portrays him as acting very impetuously and very cowardly, and not being a good leader. And in the previous section, he has he has caught sight of Ambiorix and comes up with this idea to basically go to him and discuss terms of surrender. He asks Cotta to do this with him, and Cotta refuses and says, "There's no way that we're going to go to an enemy while the enemy is still armed." And so Sabinus persists nevertheless. And here we have Sabinus in 37 taking front and center stage. So we have Sabinus, and then we have those whom, in the moment or for the present, and then we have tribunes of the soldiers, so the tribunes, around him he had. So we need a little bit more here to make sense of this. And the centurions of the first ranks, he orders to follow him. So let's unpack this more. So the main idea here is Sabinus orders all of these people to follow him. So he orders the tribunes, whom, in the moment, for the present, he had around him, and the centurions of the first ranks. So he orders both of these groups of people to follow him. When he had approached Ambiorix more closely, when he had come to Ambiorix more closely, having been ordered to do so, having been ordered to throw down his arms, he does the thing ordered. He does the thing commanded. And he commands his men. So here, impero, like mondo and persuadio, take the dative. So he commands his men that they should do the same, or just to do the same. So he comes to Ambiorix, and Ambiorix tells him to lay down his weapons, and so inexplicably he does. And then even further unbelievably, he orders his men to lay down their arms too. This man who has already deceived them one time. Meanwhile, while they are agunting inter se, while they're discussing amongst themselves, while they're discussing the conditions, so while they're talking amongst themselves about the conditions, so assuming the conditions of their surrender, a longior, and here's a really wonderful hyperbaton here. So a longer speech, which is emphasized by the fact that we have the two words so spread apart. Again, that's called hyperbaton. A longer speech by design, consulto, by plan, is enacted, is instituted by Ambiorix. So in other words, Ambiorix is stalling. Now, little by little bit, having been surrounded, Sabinus is killed. Then truly, by their own custom, as is their custom, and I'm saying their because the subject is nt they, so we know it's the Gauls. So then truly, they shout out victory. They proclaim victory, as is their custom, and they raise shouts, they raise yells or shrieks, and ululation. And with an attack made against our men, they harry our ranks, they disturb our ranks, or terrify our ranks of soldiers. There, or maybe then, Lucius Cotta fighting is killed with a great, or the greatest part of our soldiers. So as Caesar narrates this, the Sabinus's actions not only got him into this mess, but really are the tipping point in the battle, and very, very quickly after the Romans are routed. So the remaining Roman soldiers, they flee, they recover themselves back into the camp. So they retreat into the camp from where they had left. Of them, or from them, Lucius Petrosidius, the Aquilifer, cum here, we're looking at magna multitudine, and we're thinking, well, okay, that with a great multitude of the enemy, he was being pressed. But the subjunctive tells you that this cum is really the cum clause here. So because he was being pressed, he was being overwhelmed or oppressed by a great multitude of the enemy, the Aquila, the legionary standard, inside the wallum, the fortifications here, the earthworks, he threw. So Lucius Petrosidius displays a huge amount of courage and wherewithal to know that he's going to die, and before he does it, he throws the Aquila into the defensive fortifications of the camp so that it doesn't fall into the hands of the enemy. So the man himself, Lucius Petrosidius, in front of the camp, very bravely fighting, is killed, is slain.